know what's really happening with groundwater, right? I mean, how much is there, how much is pumped, and what would be the critical watts. Now, moving over to what can be done, and this is where I want to come over to you, Vishwanath sir. The Biome's Million Wells campaign has been phenomenal in, improving or increasing recharge within the city. Now, with respect to apartments that are there in the city, how do apartments even start their recharge journey, right? What are the different things that they really need to look at? How do they identify, locations for having these recharge zones or recharge wells, however we want to do it? So if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, thanks for that. So Bangalore has been, if you look at the broad picture, Bangalore has 3 taps, as one says. 3 taps meaning Cauvery is one tap. We bring the water from the pipeline. The second tap is rainwater, which falls on our city. The third tap is treated used water, right? So we have 3 taps and 4 stores. The stores being some tanks or reservoirs that we build, lakes and wetlands, aquifers. These are the major stores that we have, and of course soil profile, because Bangalore is also a city with a lot of trees and parks. The soil needs water for the trees and plants. We don't have to only think about ourselves as human beings, and to think of nature also as having its own share or right to water, because we need to keep the city green and clean. Now, the rainwater harvesting bylaw has kicked in Bangalore in 2009. In many apartments have already implemented rainwater harvesting. One bit of advice is the designers and developers are doing rainwater harvesting structures, recharge structures. But unfortunately, what's happening is that one is not doing something simple called a slug test. When you do a recharge well, typically 3 feet in diameter, and typically should be 20 feet. And it should not be filled with gravel, sand, and all that. That's not necessary. It would just be a well which puts water in. What needs to be done is to do a sample of 2 or 3, put a certain volume of water, measure the rate at which it goes down into the aquifer, and on that basis, and the basis of the catchment, the rainfall intensity, you design number of recharge structures, make sure that your surface runoff and your rooftop runoff are either stored or put into the aquifer. Now, there are 2 kinds of aquifers in Bangalore. There is the shallow aquifer, which is really behaves differently from the deep borewell aquifer. The shallow aquifer responds quickly to recharge and quickly to lake filling. What we've been seeing in Biome, because this is the rainwater harvesting question, is if rainwater, which cannot be harvested or collected at apartment or gated community or household level, is directed to the lakes. If the lakes receive treated used water, as the BWSSB itself is planning to fill 40 lakes with treated used water, the minor irrigation department of the government of Karnataka is already filling about 500 lakes in Kolar, Chikballapur, Bangalore rural, Bangalore urban with treated used water. Once these lakes are filled with these treated used water, what we find is the dug wells and the filter bore wells, we call them. Some of you who are from Bangalore would call it boru or filter bore well. These are shallow bore wells which go to 100 feet. These quickly respond. And what we've been able to do or showcase in Devanahalli is that by filling the lake with treated used water, the system can pump the equivalent of 6 million liters per day, and the entire requirement of Devanahalli can come from the shallow aquifer. So a combination of rainwater, lake restoration, and treated used water is the way to go ahead if we want circularity. The 800 million liters which we are exploiting, or the 1 million liter per square kilometer, means that we need to put 1 million liters per day equivalent into that 1 square kilometer. And that has to be done through rainwater harvesting and through lake rejuvenation and recharge. Right? That means that about 800 millimeters of rain, which is the actual average rainfall of Bangalore, slightly less than that, that much water has to be put into the aquifer for the aquifer to become sustainable. So we need to, and many apartments have shown that rainwater harvesting actually makes a difference. I can mention Century Saris, for example, or Brigade Woods. Many apartments have demonstrated that rainwater harvesting can be done and can be done systematically. What I'd request the apartments and the BAF to do is to quickly document the best practices of rainwater harvesting, which has been done well, and share it across board with all other apartments so that they can replicate it and help the city become water sustainable.
Thank you. Thanks so much.